let's face it, that was fantastic. Come on, let's have a big, big hand. Wow. And imagine all of your colleagues got up, and well done for you to get up. Next time the Ministry of Agriculture, accuses you of formality, we'll show them this video. Listen, that was great. Thanks very much. We're off to a great start. We're just going to take a couple of minutes to look at this week's agenda. If you all just pull up your agenda for a moment, I just want to quickly run down what we're doing this week, just so you have an idea. This afternoon, we're going into scenarios. Now, Mr. Mark Sadler is going to explain what a scenario is. This is a fascinating exercise, but we're suddenly back to the future now. We are back into the future, and we will be starting this afternoon. Let's look at Tuesday. We're going to finish at 5, by the way, and there'll be a few other announcements. We're going to, of course, have breakfast here Tuesday morning. We're going to start off with demographics and diet. We've got a very interesting moderator for you, a panel discussion, followed by some Q&A. We're covering a lot of themes tomorrow. Technology and innovation after the break. I'll be moderating. I'm going to do Tai Chi throughout now because I can see that that's the way to do it. In fact, I was going to get you to all to do your applause from now on this way. I thought that was very useful. In the afternoon, we're going to be having another quick icebreaker, but we're going to be on to the issue that was raised already about fragility and conflict, followed by communications and agriculture. So we have these really interesting sessions. They're going to be done a bit differently. I think there's a lot of information that we're going to cover. You'll see the bios of some of the people who are speaking, so that if you have a chance, read about them because there's some really interesting speakers and people participating. Now, flip over to Wednesday. Wednesday, we're kicking off with this that's called a window into the future food system. And this is kind of already framing up the big picture. We, again, have some interesting practitioners. You'll see that there's been a real emphasis in getting external people in to this session, hearing back from what you said last time. So you'll get a lot of these external people coming in, giving you short interjections. So there's a wealth of things that will be coming your way. Livestock, after the break, an excellent session. There's talking about some of the things that are breaking in that field, particularly animal welfare, the the antibiotic issue. And Wednesday, we have to be on our game because you're all going off on field trips Wednesday afternoon. Again, you have to have signed up by today. That I think all of you will have. If you're not going, you have to tell people, otherwise those buses will be waiting. It's going to be a great trip, but you can't now just decide to go on another trip because it's really well organized. And the team who's organized this, I got to tell you, hope they'll be standing up later. They've worked tirelessly. So you'll be out all afternoon on your field trips. Thursday is our last day here. We're going to be looking at in the morning about the internal partners and the external. Who do we bring along? Partnership. And I would challenge you to be really practical and realistic about how we do it, because that's often the big time sink, isn't it? And in the afternoon, we have the Shark Tank. Yes, we're going to have ominous music. We're going to have some awards being given out. They're going to be judging people. So come prepared to enjoy some mangling of the opposition, as it were. Immediately after that, we're going to have, you're going to give us some closing remarks. There's going to be a reception. The key thing to know is that Friday we'll be going back to the bank. And that is the day where you're really taking a big step and saying, who else besides our practice? You've got those other practices coming together. There's going to be a lot of people. We've got to have that energy, but we have a chance to have a very practical, full day. And that will take you up to Friday. And then you can do Tai Chi all weekend, I think, now that you know how to do it, so you can completely relax then. One quick little announcement. There is an exciting spring meeting event that's being done jointly by the AGP in the Africa region. It's about partnerships with universities to strengthen agriculture education in Africa. Just before we break tonight, Simone's going to come up. Whoever wants to discuss that is going to meet over here right at the end of the session. Just a very short meeting. Last thing before I bring on the man who also I hope needs no introduction. This afternoon, it's group work. It's quite exciting. It's something that's been run in Davos. I love this format. Let's all lean in and make this really interesting, make it work. Please participate. I love the fact, I know all of you are busy. I know your cell phones are calling you. Resist it, please. Put them down. Use them at breaks. At the coffee break this afternoon, we'll be asking you to bring your coffee back into the group with you. But it should be good because we'll all be in discussion. Right. Mr. Mark Sadler, the man who needs no introduction. I want to point out, he will introduce himself. He looks so much like one of my relatives that I'm almost going to call him Uncle Dick. I won't, but if I do, if I happen to mention Uncle Dick, who's from Norfolk, a keen cycler, a fine fellow, he's from Norfolk. Well, you see, that's a terrible accent. I mean, Uncle Dick, Mark, if you would like to come up and lead us through this next exercise, and please tell us who you are and do a much better job than I just did.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm not Uncle Dick. The second thing is he didn't mention he doesn't like Uncle Dick.
No, he's my favorite.
Right. So my name's Mark. I work in the Global Engagement Unit. It's great to see you all here. I know a lot of you have traveled a long way. So my job this afternoon is to minimize what I'm about to tell you. But it'd be really helpful if you could listen over the next 6 to 10 minutes. We'll try and get it done in that amount of time, because it's going to be really important for whether you enjoy the next 2 hours or you don't. So, one of the big things that comes out of looking towards the future is how do we actually go about doing that? And how do we get stakeholders together to think about doing that? Because guess what? It's very uncomfortable. All of you at some level received education that convinced you of two things. It convinced you that there, A, was an answer, and that that answer was definite. You were all imbued for a large number of years through your education to be absolutely convinced that you know the answer. The trouble with projecting thinking into the future is no one knows what the answer is. So it becomes very, very uncomfortable exercise to do it. Extremely uncomfortable. It actually means that you have to step outside and to convince yourselves that you actually don't know the answer. One tip. If at any stage this afternoon you sit there and think you are coming up with an answer, something went wrong. Okay, so given that you are all highly educated, and I'm not when it comes to technology, hooray. This is not mumbo jumbo. This is actually, well, I believe that anyway. So there's a science to it. A lot of it's based on behavioral science, and a large amount of it is based on a number of different approaches, and they're academic approaches. So for the true academicians amongst you who are now feeling very uncomfortable, this is based on science. It's based on the science of your brain, not on the science of what is outside of your brain, which is the world. So when we think of looking forward to the future, there are 4 basic tools that we use all the time. One of those tools, and you're doing exactly what I expected you to do. You're all totally and utterly immersed into looking at that slide. Slides are lethal. What I'm going to get you to do is to deliberately go to a space you're not sure of. What you're all very sure of is forecasting. Because you're trained. That's how you think. I have the answer. Forecasting is actually really useful. Of course it's useful. But it's useful when A, the information you're basing your decisions upon is static, and B, there is a very, very low level of uncertainty, and C, you only forecast for a short period of time. So you can forecast you will be going for coffee in about an hour. uncertainty. We said, no, you're not going out there for coffee, you're coming straight back in. So you'd have got it wrong. So your forecasting of an hour ahead in your life would have got you wrong. But it is useful. Known facts that don't change, low levels of uncertainty, and short periods of time. Those are three critical pieces for forecasting. Now, to get you further away, you think about gaming, which is that there's not a particular space that I'm going to. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to get there in steps, and as I move forwards, the answer will change. That's gaming as an approach. Both of those are based on moving from today forwards. That's exactly what they're there for. They're very, very good tools, and they're very useful. Here's the bad news. You're not using them. That's not what we want you to do. Today, this week, is exactly not about that. So when we look at the future and then we come back in time, that's what we're asking everyone to do. It's the most uncomfortable, and mentally, for your brain, it's very difficult to cope with at certain times. Scenarios, that's what we're actually doing now. Scenarios are based upon, we know that there are certain things that are going to happen. The world's population is going to get bigger, climate change is going to happen. There's a whole bunch of things that we actually know. And then there's some uncertainties that we don't really know about. We're not terribly sure, and they could be game changers. The importance with uncertainties is you look at the ones that are game changers. We'll get to this scenario in a couple of minutes. And then we have a thing called backcasting, which when I first heard about it, I thought it was something they did in Hollywood when people come up and want to get into a movie. But backcasting is a very, very different approach. Backcasting says, I choose a point in the future, and then I work back to today to work out how I deliver that future. It sounds like mumbo jumbo. I'll give you two very quick examples of backcasting that you will all know and have heard at some stage in your life. The first one came in 1961. It's been done for centuries, but the one you'll remember was when Jack Kennedy made a speech. He made a speech to Congress. He said, we will be on the moon before the end of the decade. It was, at that time, impossible. It was impossible scientifically, it was impossible aeronautically, it was impossible humanly, and, by the way, they couldn't work out how they were going to keep someone alive that long, especially when they stood away from something they could plug a suit into. It was impossible. That was backcasting. They spent a lot of time talking to NASA. They worked out where they thought they could get, and then they realized they had to go to another frontier. And the only way to get there was to say, we're going to do this. And so then NASA, after that, sat down and worked out what were the steps that would need to happen before the end of the decade, back to 1961, to enable them, Neil Armstrong, to step off and put his feet on the moon. It's a great example. The other quick one, Martin Luther King. He did not say, I have a nightmare. Right? If he'd looked at the situation they were in, the civil rights in this country, he had a nightmare. He didn't. He said, no. I have a dream. He then took his team and sat them in a room, all of whom were utterly fixated on everything that was wrong in the current system in the US, who couldn't get beyond it. He said, no, I have a dream. Kids in the same schools, people on the same buses. Right, what will it take? Go backwards. Don't go forwards, go backwards. And that's exactly what they did. That's backcasting. Right, so scenarios is what we're going to subject you to today. If it makes you feel any better, 25 CEOs, Jürgen put them through this. Chris is in the room. We went through some pain putting the scenarios together. Basically, the future of the food system is driven by variables and uncertainty. Remember, certain things are going to happen, we know them. They're variables, uncertainty, big game changers. We don't know what the future is. There are multiple, and I shouldn't use this word, right? Alternative facts, alternative futures. I couldn't resist it. But there are alternative futures based upon this. There are certain ways that the world will turn out, and how we act today and how we act going forwards will impact that. So the important thing I need you to remember today is that this is not about coming to the right answer. Forecasting is a planning tool. Backcasting is a planning tool. These two in the middle, gaming and scenarios, are process tools. What is important to do on your tables is not to come up with the answer, there isn't one. What is important to do on your tables is to interact with each other and go through the process of thinking it through. That's what this is about. Don't try and come up with an answer, you can't. If you come up with an answer, you've got it wrong, because it's not possible to do that. It's great when things can't work that way. So there's a context, and the context is what needs to be done to have a food system in 2050 that will do all the things that we need it to do. Feed people nutritiously, sustainably, and take us the next step forward. So that's the context. That's the outcome that we're looking for. That's the kind of the man on the moon moment. So, to the actual scenario. I'm going to run you through it really quickly. On your tables, you will find one scenario per table. Specifically, what you're not supposed to do today is to try and look at all 4 scenarios. What your brain will want you to do is to move from one scenario to another one. What your brain will want you to do is to identify which scenario is best. Your brain will try and work out how to move from one to the other. That's not what it's about, remember? It's about process. There are no right answers. It's about how you sit and interact with each other and work out what the implications are of the world in which you find yourself. Hands up anyone who's seen Star Trek. See, this is why I'm always careful about these things, right? Okay, so in Star Trek, this TV series, they had this amazing machine where, a guy would stand there and they'd suddenly flick a switch and you would find yourself in a different world, right? You are being beamed to that different world. Don't worry how you got there. Don't worry why you got there. Just worry about where you are, the scenario you're in. Anyone on your table starts going, but this isn't the right world. I wanted to turn left, not go right. Not the conversation. You'll get lost. It's a rabbit hole. Basically, these scenarios were built on 2 big axes. Connectivity. That's about policy. It's about trade. It's about the internet. It's about the global community and the global commons. It's about how the human race interacts both economically and politically and socially. That can go really well, high connectivity. It can go badly, low connectivity. And the axis that runs through the middle was one that we all argued about for quite some time and continued the argument for a month in emails, which is resource intensity of our food system. That is not just about how much water we use, how much fertilizer we use, how much land we degrade, etc. It's also about all the externalities of the food system. So the biggest externality that is there that looks like it is already a lot more expensive than the food system itself is the global health bill. The externality of our food system is obesity and all those other wonderful things we talked about this morning. So when you're thinking about that access, remember that other externality. It's critically important because it's not just about how we grow stuff. And that has been the problem for a very, very long time. So quickly, to go through the squares, there's a piece of paper on your table that explains your world. But basically, bottom left-hand corner was all about very low connectivity. Basically, we're not really talking to each other anymore. And very high resource use. Big bills for health, mining the soils, using all the water. I mean, it's the wonderful stuff of old, right? That's the world that you find you're in. If you're on that table, that's your world. Scenario 2. Well, we're still mining the heck out the planet, and we've still got enormous health bills, but now we're doing it on a global basis. We're swishing this stuff around the planet as quick as we can. The internet's working. This is fantastic. It's what a lot of people say should really be what it's all about. You have a think about how that world actually fits, because that's what your job's going to be. Number 3, by design these things, everyone always assumes that there's a golden quadrant. I can tell you now, before you start debating it, this would be the golden quadrant in this scenario. It doesn't matter. If you're in this quadrant, talk about this one. Don't worry about the others. High connectivity, better diets, low health bills, things look pretty good. But do they? Because don't forget, on the instructions we'll get to in 1 second, think of all the stakeholders. It's very rare that everyone's a winner. The final one is, some places are doing real well. Health bills went down, resource mining went down, but people are kind of not really sharing that knowledge, not sharing that experience, they're not trading. So some places do real well, and some other places don't do so well. So those are the 4 scenarios. Only worry about the one that you have on your table. You need to make your first democratic decision as rulers of the world, because that's who you are this afternoon. You need a table leader. So just pick someone at your table, because they're the person that we'll pick on later. No, I shouldn't have said that, should I? Think of the natural leader. Oh, you choose. When you're talking about this, remember, golden piece. All the stakeholders that are involved in the food system. Don't look at this from one angle. If you look at it from one angle, you're going to come up with a very myopic answer. Some people outside of our food system would say, that's how we got where we are today. Not everyone's going to be a winner. So start thinking about who's the loser in your particular world, even if it's the golden quadrant. There will be people wandering around here helping you through your pain. The facilitators are here. They have a number of questions that we know that you're already going to start asking, and they already have answers. And some of them I've already told you. Don't try and move between quadrants. Hopefully you don't know the other quadrants. Just worry about the world that you have just been beamed into. Coffee will bring back in here. And after coffee, we'll ask some of the table leaders to stand up. Now, apparently it's now organized. We've got World 1, World 2, World 3, World 4. And we'll ask the table leaders to stand up and give us an explanation of how you saw that world and answering the 3 questions. One is now over there. See how quickly the world changes? Yeah, that makes sense to me now. Right, 3 questions. What are the major challenges? So just think about the words in red. It always helps. That's why they're up there in red. Your brain's already working. Challenges, risks, opportunities. Use that frame. Challenges, risks, opportunities. So when you report back, talk about it in terms of challenges, risks, and opportunities. See, repeated it 3 times. It's now embedded. Think about the first question. What is it? What are those 3 things in the world that you are now finding yourselves in? The quadrant that you're in, winners, losers, what does it mean for smallholders? What does it mean for big agribusiness companies? What do those 3 things mean for the different stakeholders? Then we're going to ask you to travel back in time. Anyone seen Doctor Who? Yeah, okay. So there's this weird guy who travels around space and time in a telephone box. It's very popular in Brexit, UK. But what we're going to do is you're suddenly going to move from 2050 back to today. So keeping that tension of what are those 3 things in that world in 2050, and what would you do if you ran your world today that would mean that there was a different kind of outcome. And then the third question, which is the one apparently that Jürgen and Ethel just want answered by the end of this afternoon, that was what you said, right? Is what do we do about it? Where do we fit in? How does AgGP and the bank fit in to this and solving that? The good news is you don't get to ask me any questions now. I leave you with these 3 questions.
You have until 4 o'clock to do this exercise, and Mark is going to selectively ask for some reporting back. So you have to manage your time within your group. Is that not correct, Mark?
Yeah.
And we'll let you know when you're halfway through and how much time you have left. Right. But you have to focus, think of the questions, divide it up in your group.
You are now the leaders of the world. Anoint your own table leaders.
Right.
4 o'clock.
Are we ready? Facilitators will come around and explain more to you. We'll let you know when coffee's ready. Please bring it back. Ladies and gentlemen, Uncle Dick, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Go, go.
Lock the doors.